Awesome. The floor is yours, Eleni. Go ahead.
Perfect. So ahead of time, I just wanted to make sure there were a few people that had sent me their resumes to review, and we hopefully will be reviewing a few live resumes. If anyone does not want their resume shared with the chat and the team here today, if you can just write that in the chat and we will not bring it up. But if we have everyone's okay, then I will give some examples of members from the team. So yeah, my name is Eleni. Today I'm going to be taking everyone through resumes that get interviews. It was supposed to start off just solely on resumes, but then I did get carried away and I added a few more tidbits that I felt would be beneficial for the group today. So a little bit about me. I currently work as a go-to-market talent acquisition lead and HR business partner. In fancy words, I am a recruiter. I work at a Boston-based startup and we do integrations with banks and credit unions. I started off my career in the banking sector, so it was very ironic that I ended up here. I absolutely love the company I work for. I love being able to help people, and I honestly fell into recruiting, I think, by the grace of the world. I love being able to not only help and elevate people in the current positions that they're in, but also help with career trajectory. So really over the past 9 years, I've done every realm of recruiting that you can think of, public, private, internal, and external. And that is where I actually met Ahmed, I believe in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. I placed him as an IT contractor. So again, Ahmed, thanks for having me. So the agenda today, again, a little bit longer than anticipated, but I really want to go over what makes a good resume. I have a few examples of some good formats and some formats that I would stay away from. Really how to stand out in a crowd. Some of these jobs are getting 1,200, 2,000, 3,000 applicants. What are the levers that you can use as a candidate to really help get your name in front of those recruiters and hiring managers? Next, I want to go over some popular job boards. I'm sure the majority of you have heard of them. Really what you should be investing in as far as time and money goes, who you should connect with within an organization, really what you do once you get the interview. Because again, once you get the interview, that's when the work really begins. Just some pointers on interview etiquette, what questions to ask at the end of an interview, salary expectations. Obviously, right now the market is pretty volatile, so wanting to ensure that you are well enough informed on salary in your role, I think, is super important. What to look out for during the interview process, and then really what to do once you get the job. So we'll start off with the basics of really what makes a good resume. At the end of the day, your resume is your first impression to any recruiter, and a lot of the times the hiring managers as well. So think about it as a headshot, but literally on paper for your experience. You're obviously not going to submit a picture of yourself that isn't refined and professional, and you want to do the same thing with your resume. So you want to ensure, number one, clear formatting. I would rather see a resume that's a little bit more spaced out than one that has everything just kind of melded together. Use a clean professional layout. There are tons of websites online that provide templates and things of that nature. So definitely use those free tools. Contact information, definitely I would not put your home address, but your city that you live in, your email, and your phone number. So again, people can contact you. Even LinkedIn, I think, is really, really beneficial. That is where a lot of recruiters go to find candidates these days. And then if you are on more of the artsy side or even on the developing side, maybe your GitHub or GitLab tag or your portfolio. So here are some format examples. I'll kind of walk through the pros and cons of both. So sorry, I tried to condense these pictures. So the one on the left, as you can see, is just riddled with bullet points. I don't know a recruiter that would read that and be able to ingest all of that information. While a lot of it is probably relevant, a resume is really a snapshot of your experience and the key points. The point is, again, to get the message across of what objectives you were tasked with. But at the end of the day, you want to be able to speak to the recruiter or the hiring manager and add a little bit more detail. So if you see the format on the left, again, super just overwhelming with words. Again, these little things at the bottom here, what's the word I'm looking for? The little scales. Again, good idea, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're being super professional, and that is more of, I'd say, like a university level of addition to a resume. So if we look at the right, very clean, very simple. It's one page. Now this person, again, has experience from all the way from 2012 to 2020, and they managed to fit it into one page. And when I read the bullet points, super concise, get to the point. But as a recruiter, I would look at those bullets and say, I'm excited to dig in a little bit deeper with this candidate. So again, comparison as a recruiter, looking at the left, I would definitely say this person struggles communicating those key facts of what they actually did in this job, probably move on. And then if I saw the person on the right, I would definitely say seems like somebody that knows what they have done and knows what they want to do. So now it's for the people that love to add a little bit of color to their resumes. I don't say, again, shy away from color, but I think there's a way that it can be done tastefully. The one on the left, again, I'm not against headshots, but at the end of the day, I think the best way to interview is in a non-biased kind of light where you just kind of put your name, put your experience, and let the recruiter or hiring manager kind of make that decision. Obviously, the hope is that we don't have bias, again, people in recruitment or hiring managers, but I always just say let the words speak from themselves or for themselves, sorry, instead of adding that headshot. And then if we do look at the side that's on the left, education, skills, certificate, work experience, it just looks very juvenile and it looks very young. Whereas you look at the one on the right, even though she did put a little bit of color at the top and the left and in the titles, still very clean, very concise. The skills are not 10 miles long. That would be, again, a resume that I would look at and say, she knows how to communicate what her objectives were and what her roles were. Let's set up that pre-screen call. So another example, this is one that I wanted to give for people that didn't have a lot of work experience. Both of these resumes have essentially 2 years of working experience. Look at the format of the one on the left and look at the format of the one on the right. You wouldn't know that, again, it was the same level of experience because the one on the right just looks so clean, so smooth. They even added a little bit of color, but they were able to embellish and really add more detail than the person on the left. So it doesn't matter if you have 1 year of experience, 20 years of experience. What you want to do is really paint that picture while making sure that you're adding enough detail to, again, paint a good idea for that recruiter. So really how to stand out from the crowd. So obviously we know that right now the space of technology is very volatile. People are getting laid off, whether you're at a big company, a startup, middle-sized company. You want to make sure that you're spending time really investing into applying for jobs that you're genuinely interested in. And when I say in this little bullet, be truthful about your experience, it's an amazing thing to have ambitions and, again, want that professional development. But right now, I would definitely probably stay to the safer side of what your skills have grown to become. The reason I do say that is because a lot of people right now are thinking, oh, I want to jump ship. I want to learn a new skill. You will always be at that entry level. And people say, if not now, when? Depending on, again, how bad you are in need of a job, I would say it's better to stay to the safer side for now and apply to roles that you are qualified for versus something that's completely out of your realm. So number two, definitely try and find the recruiter or the hiring manager for the position. I have people all the time that send me LinkedIn messages. They'll find my email and say, hi, Eleni, congratulations on starting your Series B round of fundraising. I heard Posh has been doing amazing things. And like, just knowing that this person took time to not only go and find out about us, but what's going on in the media and kind of like the financial situation we're in. It's a startup, so it's a really exciting milestone. And then third, when you send messages, I always love to see, by the way, I referenced your Glassdoor recommendations. I saw your values on your website. They really resonated with me as a candidate. And I'd love to be able to dive into that more and hear more from you firsthand. So it's just being thoughtful and adding those little touches that is the difference between somebody reaching out, hi, Eleni, here's my resume. Let me know if you have time to connect on a quick 15-minute call. Versus, hi, Eleni, just saw this role come up on Posh. Really loved, again, your values of your company. Saw you just went through a Series B round of fundraising. I am interested in joining the team. If you think my profile is appropriate, I'd love to hear back. And it's all about really how you word it and how you frame it. So job boards, again, these are really the three most popular ones that I think probably throughout Canada and the US. There are a few more, Monster, Ahmed, I believe there's a few more in the US that I'm probably not too familiar with, but LinkedIn, I always say, is the go-to. Indeed is also great, and Glassdoor is also amazing, but I do 90% of my recruiting on LinkedIn. So definitely I would say check for the new jobs that are posted daily. set your reminders. You can go on to LinkedIn jobs and specific companies. And if you're really drawn to it, you can set those notifications. So the second that a new job gets posted, you get an email about it. Also, I would say as far as job boards go, I would, again, use ChatGPT. What are the best job boards in my city? Like, be using these free online tools that you have to just, again, increase the depth of knowledge you have, because it is so competitive out there right now in the job market that you always want to try and be one step ahead. So what you should invest in. Number one, learn how to write a resume. And the reason why I think that it's so important, not only to have a good resume, but learn how to write it in different ways, is because, again, companies have different job descriptions. They have different values, and a lot of the time they want to hear different things. So having one great, strong resume is phenomenal. But if they have 10 keywords and you have none of those keywords in the resume you're applying with, and let's say they're using Boolean search, which is literally a tool that you type in and it grabs keywords from documents, your resume won't come up. So you want to make sure that you're taking time and doing multiple iterations of your resumes to ensure that if recruiters or hiring managers are doing those Boolean searches, your resume is going to the top of the list. Now, interview preparation, I think, is super important. If you have family, if you have friends that can ask you questions, what are your strengths, weaknesses? Paint me a time that you worked with a tough manager. Always be practicing. Try and attend as many free webinars and workshops that you can. I think the bigger your network is and the more you practice, the better you get. Just a little backstory. I was actually laid off from my last opportunity. It was about 18 months ago now. And the first thing that you go into is panic of like, oh my gosh, I don't have a job now. Second off, I loved my last company. So it was, how am I going to find a company that I'm just as happy at? And I love the people and I love the product. But I had an amazing executive team. I had a lot of people refer me to companies for interviews. And I actually interviewed with 31 companies over 19 days. It was the craziest time of my life, but it really allowed me to see the good and bad in companies as far as interview process goes, salary, values, the way they treat their employees. But I did a lot of preparation for every single interview. And when I went in there, I was confident in myself. I knew about the company, I knew about the role, and I knew what I could add to the job. So definitely preparing, even as a recruiter, I think it's so important to get that interview prep in. Now, English language training. I come from two immigrants. My mother is Greek and my dad is Jamaican. And my grandparents have very broken English. And I've tried to get them to do more English language training. But again, it's hard to teach old dogs new tricks. But I would say if English is not your first language and you can find some free language training, do it. It will help you so immensely. Even again, I say to some American and Canadian, it's like you can never be too good at communicating and too good at speaking. So if you are, again, a little bit shy or a little bit more reserved with your ability to communicate really fluently in English, I would try, again, just investing in some free online training, YouTube videos, anything you can do to just practice more, because the communication in a lot of roles is key. A professional looking headshot. So again, you can do this literally with an iPhone against a white wall. Doesn't need to be anything too crazy, but wanting to make sure that you don't have a picture out, or a lot of people use passport pictures. Sometimes that works as well. And then to be prepared to invest in research. It's going to take a while to get a job. Rejection is redirection. That's what I've always said. And don't be discouraged, because the door that is closed will hopefully open up a brighter one. But again, you have to put in that time. Getting a job is a job in itself. And a lot of people that think they're just going to show up to an interview and wing it. There are people that have been studying for hours. And I always say you have to be better, faster, quicker, stronger. So make sure, especially if you're passionate about the company that you're interviewing for, that you definitely do a lot of research. So who you should connect with. So these are just a list of some titles of people in the HR space. Again, the last point I had was the hiring manager. Reach out to as many people as you can. Get your name in front of that manager or in front of that recruiter. Again, you don't want to go on the level of like harassing the staff or sending messages every day, but I think it's very appropriate to send a message to one or two people within a company if you are interviewing for that role or you want to be selected for that interview. And again, just send a nice, gentle message. Hope again that you're having a great day. I know you must get a handful of messages. this was super appealing that I saw on your website or this job, and just make it genuine and authentic, but not too long. So once you get the interview, again, like I said, the real work happens once you get it. So you want to be able to walk the person through your experience. Now, sometimes, myself included, we get nervous and we tend to read from our resumes, and we read from the top of it right to the bottom. And then you look at the clock and you're like, oh my gosh, I just spent 11 minutes reading this resume. So the one thing that I always do recommend is that you ask the recruiter or the hiring manager, how much detail do you want me to get into? I can do high level or I can get very granular. And I think the majority of the time, like I said, when we're overwhelmed, we tend to ramble, and a lot of the recruiters get lost in the inability to see past struggles with communication. I've had people that have had phenomenal resumes, and I get them on the phone and then they just read it, like I said, line from line. And I'm like, ugh, I wish they would have done that a little bit more authentically. But again, it is a very nerve-wracking thing. So as best you can, just try and again, do a high-level overview. Next point is really be able to elaborate on your failures and accomplishments. So a lot of people tend to always turn failures or accomplishments or strengths into weaknesses, but be vulnerable. It's okay. Like a lot of the time, people want to see that you can not only be honest with yourself, but honest with companies. So if I needed to say personally what one of my failures would have been, would probably be this year, being a little bit more reactive than proactive in our annual operating plan sessions. Again, not a huge deal, but it just shows vulnerability in that you understand that you can look at yourself and say, I'm not perfect in everything. And then accomplishments, I just started advising my CEO, and it has just been so fulfilling. So again, make sure that you're honest, and everyone's a human. We have good and bad. So yeah, just make sure that you're open, honest, and vulnerable is what I like to say. And then the next point is be able to clearly link your experience with the role. And why that is so important, again, goes back to being honest about your experience. I know a lot of us think that it's better to just kind of like embellish or sometimes lie about our experience just to get our foot into the door. I would say it's a better idea not to add false experience and to still apply. If you're 50 to 60% qualified for a role, go ahead and apply, versus kind of making a fake resume and then getting put on the spot in front of the hiring manager, and really not knowing kind of how to get yourself out of that hole. So again, I think honesty is always the best policy. So interview etiquette dues. So these are just a few bullet points of what I have seen work really well in interviews, and when I'm interviewing a candidate, the things that I look for. So definitely have your phone on loud if it is a phone call. You don't want to have to call them back. If it is a video call, I always say be on the link 5 minutes before, and I would even try and sign into the link the day before or the morning of, just to make sure that if it's a Zoom, that it didn't expire. And that's happened to me more times than I'd like. Find somewhere quiet to take the call. If you have children or you have animals, feel free to disclose at the beginning. By the way, my daughter's home, my son's home, somebody's sick, I have a dog, if the door rings. Because again, it makes you a little bit more human, and it also shows accountability that you know something might disrupt the call ahead of time. So really have your phone to your head or in headphones. I've had people on speaker and it just cuts out. Not a good idea. Have water nearby as I take a sip. Be polite, greet people, thank them for their time. Again, people are very busy. HR people are busy. Hiring managers are busy, but so are candidates. So just to make sure that we're thanking everyone. Make sure that you speak clearly and slowly. I'm still working on the slow part myself. I'm a very fast speaker and I try and take breaths in between my words, but it's been 29 years and I don't know if I'm going to get better at it. But again, especially if English is your second language, try and again, be slow, be concise, be clear, because the last thing you want is to miss out on a job opportunity because the recruiter might have felt uncomfortable having to ask multiple times for you to repeat what you were saying. So let the recruiter lead the call at the beginning of the call. Normally we have an agenda set. So again, if nothing comes up or they just say like, tell me about yourself, then again, kind of go off of their vibe. But I would say definitely don't just like jump in with questions, kind of let them lead that call. Next, listen closely to the questions. And if you don't understand something, ask for clarification. Like I love when people say, I don't really understand that. Can you explain that in a different way? And I'm like, this just shows how engaged they are. Because if you're not engaged and you answer the question wrong or how you think I'd want to hear it, sometimes again, it works as a point against you. So definitely don't be shy to ask for clarification. Answer the questions with detail and intention. Again, one-word responses or yeah, I don't know, it was okay. Like, we want to see a little bit more detail to something, even if you've done it or if you haven't. Try and be very detailed and intentional about the response, because a question that you might not think would be a big deal to a recruiter or a hiring manager could be one of the ones that's like a make or break for the job. And then finally, after the interview, I'd say you can do it day of or day after, but just send a thank you email. So interview etiquette don'ts: chew gum, as I'm chewing gum on this call, talk on speaker, mute yourself while the interviewer is speaking to you. For some reason, I've been on calls where that's happened and you can just hear a clicking in the phone. If you do have to mute, again, maybe just disclose that at the beginning of the call. Disclose unnecessary personal information. I think it is important for this group as well, because some of you are newcomers to America or Canada. You deserve just as much respect as anybody else, whether they're an American citizen, Canadian citizen. And I do find a lot of people from the immigrant community do share a lot of personal information just out of, again, trying to solidify that they're qualified for certain jobs. So make sure that, again, we're keeping it very professional. And if you are, again, struggling to find a job at the moment, the people don't need to know that. You know what I mean? Recruiters, hiring managers always remain that composed, professional outlook, because again, we want to make sure that you don't get lowballed. I've seen that happen a lot of times too, when people pretty much act desperate or say that they're desperate. People will take advantage of that and companies will take advantage of that. So make sure that, again, you kind of come in calm, cool, and collected. So ask for the salary at the beginning of the interview. I would not do that. I definitely would say after the second round of interviews, if you haven't been asked or haven't been told, sorry, what that salary looks like, then I would say 1,000% feel free to ask or send an email about that. But definitely do not do it at the beginning of the interview. I've had people say, oh, just before we start this call, can you let me know what the salary is? And it's like, we're already on the call. You know what I mean? We already have this 30-minute block. I would respect more if somebody emailed me ahead of time saying, hi, Eleni, just before we jump in, don't want to waste your time, don't want to waste my time. Wanted to just know if our salary asks are in alignment. Are you free to share the budget? If not, no worries. We can chat more on the call. But that's better than, again, kind of asking that salary at the beginning. Assume you're going to be moved on to the next round. I've had candidates say, so when should I hear back? Just say, if everything does go well, when should I expect to hear back? It's the smallest things that change the way that your speech comes across. And one is very assumptive, and then the other is very, again, inviting of, if I do succeed, what would that look like? Versus just kind of assuming. And then again, we already touched on the one-word answers. Try and stay away from those. So what questions to ask at the end of an interview? Ask if they'd like to provide, if you need to provide, sorry, any more detail around any questions they've asked, especially, again, if English is your second language or third language. This will give an opportunity for the recruiter to maybe, if, again, they didn't feel it was appropriate during the interview, re-ask that question. Ask the interviewer at the end of the call what the salary is. Ask what steps for the interview process should you be successful. You can ask the desired start date. When are you looking to have this role filled by? How far in the process are you? And again, I accept people right until we make an offer. So they could have, again, people that are 5 steps ahead of you, and you want to make sure that you're not risking another opportunity potentially for a potential role that, again, they might extend an offer in 2 or 3 days. And then lastly, ask when you should be expecting to hear from them, again, should you be successful. So salary expectations. One thing I would say, the most important thing is research what your experience is worth in today's market. Look for 5 to 10 similar roles, and really, again, kind of find that average salary. I will say we are in a little bit of a low time as far as salary goes. Definitely, they were much more inflated 18 months ago. So I always say be open to negotiating 15% under what you go in with, because again, if you ask for 100, they go at 75, you guys meet at like 85 or somewhere in the middle. So just make sure you give yourself a little bit of room. And then again, review the company's Glassdoor reviews. Some don'ts for salary expectations. Don't lowball yourself. You know how hard you work. You know how big of an asset you can be to a company. And again, just because you're newcomers does not mean that you deserve any lower of a salary. So again, going back to that first point of how important it is to do the research. If you come with the research and you know you're confident about it, then you shouldn't end up in a lowball situation. Next is really, don't say you're negotiable without giving a salary, because I've had people that say, oh, money isn't everything to me. And we're a very kind company. We don't lowball. We're very above board when it comes to giving money. But there are companies that will, they budgeted for 80,000. You say, oh, I'm open to a range. They say, okay, are you open to 50,000? And you say yes. They've just saved themselves 30,000, and they expect the work of somebody at that 80,000 mark. So again, make sure that you go in knowing what you want. Don't say, oh, I haven't spent much time thinking about it, because it just goes to like, why are we interviewing? Because salary regardless is a big part, and anyone that says it's not is lying. So make sure that you don't say, again, you haven't spent much time thinking about the salary. Don't say salary is not important to you, because it should be. In every single job that you're in, salary is definitely, I would say, at least 50% of the deciding factor, depending on where you are in your career. And then another thing is, don't change your salary ask drastically from the date that you applied to the date of the interview. I've had people apply at like 80,000 when they speak to me. And then by the time we go to do an offer, they are at like 120. So it just, again, it doesn't look good for the candidate if they're not communicating that along the way. If you do get another offer though, that's at like 120, and you say, Eleni, I really want to come to Posh. I just got a counter offer. 100% for the right candidate, a good recruiter would go to bat for, but just make sure that you're communicating that through the process. So what to stay on the lookout for: gaps in communications from companies any longer than 7 days. If a company needs more than a week to get back to you, they probably are not serious about you as a candidate, because it is a very competitive job market. Even though people are getting laid off, all the best people are getting hired very quickly. And the people that put themselves out there and work hard at getting jobs are getting hired the fastest. So unless the recruiter or hiring manager says, we'll get back to you on this day, or somebody's on vacation for the next 2 weeks, I would say feel free to send a thank you about a day or two after the interview. And if you haven't heard within 7 days, I would send another follow-up. Another thing to watch out for is companies that won't disclose the salary after the second interview. For me, that would just be a complete waste of time. If you can't tell me how much money I'm going to earn, and I've already given you probably 2+ hours of my time, probably not a company that has the values I'm looking to join. Companies that try and sell you a dream of growth opportunities. Again, a lot of newcomers just want to get their foot in the door. Be optimistic about those opportunities, but also going back, make sure you know your value and that they don't overwork you and underpay you, because a lot of companies will do that. An excessive amount of interview steps during the interview process. Like I said, feel free to ask them how many steps there are. If there are more than 5 steps, I would highly question the ability of that company to vet candidates, because if you can't decide in more than 5 interviews if you want to hire someone, definitely I would say stay away from that company. Again, go back to the Glassdoor reviews. I always say that that's such a true and honest telltale of a company's culture, because 99% is anonymous. And then companies that don't provide feedback. I've had candidates that I've only interviewed for 30 minutes. They've asked me why they haven't gotten moved on. I will answer every single candidate that asks me that question, because that is part of the job. You've taken the time to give me time, and the least that I can do is let you know why we've decided to go in a different direction. So if a company doesn't provide you feedback, I would say good riddance, and probably a blessing that you didn't end up there. So what to do once you get the job? First thing that I would say, if your manager doesn't have a 30, 60, and 90-day plan, get that ready. I think that that is the huge lever that a lot of companies can pull that they don't often enough, is strong onboarding, especially, again, being a newcomer. And if English isn't your first language, make sure you have a plan and you feel comfortable, and you can stay busy without having to go to your manager 100 times a week. You know what your path is, you know what your plan is, and you kind of go from there. I always say be ready to work a little bit of overtime at the beginning. You have to get acclimated. You need to know the work, the people, and the culture. But I will say, don't set that as an expectation. You don't want to be known as the new person that's 4 months in, still working till 7:30, because then that sets the standard. That is what companies will expect from you. And a part of being, again, a good employee is knowing that work-life balance and that work-life flexibility. So at the beginning, put a little bit more, not a little bit more, but put a little bit extra effort, I would say, just until you get used to the company and the job. And then again, kind of go to the hours that you are hired for. Next would be to ask a manager for a list of people that they think would be a great idea for you to connect within the company. A lot of us are remote first. I'm a remote full company living in Toronto. So my first week I met with I want to say 13 or 14 people on different teams. And by week 3, I felt like I knew half the company because I'd met so many people. So definitely try and ask for those. Being active in the company's chat forums. A lot of companies, again, they're using MS Teams, Slack, Skype for Business. Be active, get your name out there, especially at a large company. You want to make sure that you have stakeholders that know you throughout the business. Next is know when to use the resources provided and when to ask questions. I think a lot of the time, people that just start a job are nervous to ask questions because they're scared that it might make them look like they're inadequate or they don't know what they're doing. But I guarantee you, any employer would rather a new hire ask too many questions than ramp and onboard a little bit more slowly because they didn't ask enough. And then lastly, every single job, managers, skip level, your direct manager, always ask for frequent and necessary feedback. I always say nobody should be surprised if they get let go for performance issues. If we go through a RIF and there are 100 people laid off, nothing really we can do. But I've worked at companies that we didn't provide enough feedback and people were really shocked. So at the beginning of the job, set that standard that you want to be one of those people that has very critical and necessary feedback from your managers. So some takeaways from my talk, and again, I do want to review some of the resumes that we've had sent in. Do your research, be intentional with your applications, utilize free resources, go into Google and type in resume, template applications, use ChatGPT. Again, I know Ahmed's a wizard there. Know your worth. I think that is the most important part, is to know that you deserve every right that anybody in America or Canada has. Put the time in. Nothing worth anything comes easily. So make sure that you know you're going to have to dedicate a little bit of time. Work on hard and soft skills. Again, technical aptitude and soft skills, even though they're very different, they go hand in hand when a company is looking to hire somebody to add to their culture. Some companies just need people to get the job done, but a lot of people want to work with good people. So you want to make sure that even though you could be the strongest technical person, people enjoy working with you, and that you can build that camaraderie throughout the company. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. I think that is my absolute favorite saying. It's the only time personally I have felt a huge growth trajectory in my own professional career and personal, really. But yeah, these uncomfortable situations are really what help us grow and help us elevate to that next step. And then, like I said a little bit earlier in the talk, rejection is part of the journey. It is depressing. It is sad. It is a lot of the times heartbreaking, especially when you're interviewing at a job that you can just picture your life and your day-to-day and something comes up that you don't get it. Just know that you're better for it. You're smarter. You went through that process and you're going to take the lessons that you learned and apply it to the next interview and hopefully get that next opportunity. So I believe that is it. If everyone's okay now, I can bring up some resumes. I was able to edit 2 of them. It took a little bit longer than anticipated. And then I have a few that I'm just going to share on the screen and we can just walk through together verbally what I would do to edit them. So give me 1 second.
So Eleni, do you want to go through the questions first or do you want to go through the...
Sure, you know what, let's do that. And then we can do the resumes at the end.
Okay. So if you want to maybe go through the chat and... Yeah, if you go up a little bit, you know, there is the first question is from Mustafa.
Okay.
Duala. I hope I'm not, you know, bashing this name.
Okay, yeah, no.
Tools.
Okay, so I had a full-time position with an offshore-based vendor company and was with them for the past 12 years. I got laid off by them in March of this year. I had got a contract job until July in 2023, and it winds down this month. How do I tailor my resume to show the job break and my focus is my focus to get back to full-time role? Number one, congratulations on the contract job. I think a lot of people don't look at contract jobs the way that they should be. And I think it's an amazing way to, again, alleviate a little bit of gap in your resume. I would say, the one thing that I did to a few of the resumes that I edited, you can take the country off of the job that you work in. Like, just put the title of the company. If the recruiter's good enough, she's going to go on LinkedIn, or he or she or they will go on LinkedIn and they'll find that company. So I would say don't sell yourself short with the fear of, again, working for an offshore-based company. Sorry, I'm just going to read that. So what was the job break? The job break is from July until now. Is that correct?
No, the job break is like from March until July. In July, like at the end of July, I got this particular contract position. Eventually, for that contract position, I went through 4 rounds of interviews. So I was just surprised. But then again, it was a layered job where I was kind of working for a consulting company who was delivering a project for a financial customer.
Okay.
So
yeah,
they maintained the client relationship, and I was there just to manage their particular project. And it was the culture was much more of like a startup organization. So it was a paradigm shift for me, coming from a well-oiled structured organization into this particular role. So there was a kind of a lot of heat that I had to take up because the end customer expectations were very high. And
Mustafa, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I don't want to cut you off. I just want to make sure that we have time to get through all the questions.
Sure. No problem, Eleni. So yeah,
no
that's
worries.
it. So I'm winding up in this next week on this particular project. So now again, I'm fully into the job market to again look out for next opportunity. And my target is for a full-time job because I need medical benefits.
Okay, no, makes complete sense. So number one, March to July, I don't even think is a long enough work gap that needs to be explained. Like people go from job to job, and a lot of the times they take 2-3 months off. So I would not worry about that gap. And I don't think any recruiter would ask you to explain that. If they do, just say, again, I stopped a contract or I stopped a job, took some time off to spend with family, and you can keep it at that. How to target your resume for a full-time job. Can I ask, do you need sponsorship for a visa, or are you a resident?
No, right now, alhamdulillah, like I've got my green card, so.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Okay, yeah, perfect. So again, I don't know if you were one of the resumes that was sent to me, but I would just go through the job posting that you were hired under. Do you still have that? I always say to people, if you do apply to a job online and there is a job description, save that description, because that is literally what you want to put in your resume as what you did. So if there's any way that you can access that of what those tasks are.
Because I mentioned that this is a contract job, so I got through one particular vendor, and it had the relationship with that particular consulting company.
Okay, fair. Well, yeah, again, feel free again. After you take a look at the presentation and the templates, feel free to re-template your resume. And once it's in the templated format, feel free to send it to me and I can take a look at it.
Sure. If you can share your email address, I can share it across to you.
Yes,
sure.
It's in the chat. I think Ahmed's going to put it at the end for anyone as well.
I'm gonna put it, yeah.
Perfect.
Thanks,
Yeah. One thing I did want to say to the whole group, I'm more than happy to review resumes. What I do ask, though, is that they are in a clean format. I don't mind helping with formatting if you don't know how to do that. But if it is really just like content review, please go and look at the resumes that I've given the examples and pick one of those formats, just because it's the easiest to scan.
Sure.
Okay, next question. How do you approach the challenge of condensing a comprehensive resume given the extensive nature of the role as a senior project manager, balancing the multitude of activities involved in your job and the detailed job description? So what I would say, again, depending on if you're applying for a public or private sector job, government, the resumes are going to be long regardless. Like that is the format that they use. But again, if it is a private sector job, as part of the struggle of being able to concisely, again, convey that experience is learning how to shorten down your resume and really bringing those key points to drive home. You can even write, or when you're saying, if you get an interview, say, listen, I've worked on so many different things. I tried to condense it as best as possible. I'd love to be able to elaborate a little bit more should I get the interview, or anything of that nature. But as a project manager, I would say bring those key deliverables. If you had KPIs or you had OKRs, talk about the success or the challenges in those bullet points. But again, a big part of resume review for recruiters is how long the resume is. And I personally, if anything is over 4 pages, I'm probably not going to review the whole thing. So I would try and find a way, maybe use ChatGPT, put the bullets in that you have and say, can you condense these by 50%, and see if it can find a way to shorten those while keeping all those keywords and key points in there as well. So if that answers that question.
Even though if you shortened it, you will miss some keywords. boards and stuff like that. The problem is the nature of the job itself. You're a project manager, you're responsible of everything. So, and specifically in engineering and construction. So, and the job description itself, I get job descriptions like 2 pages on Word. They're very detailed.
Honestly, I think in that case, you kind of have to use your judgment. If the job description is very, very detailed, maybe you tailor your resume in a more detailed way. But this is where I think having variations of a resume really does matter. And you know what? Honestly, if it is really, really frequent, I would make 2 resumes and attach both of them and literally title one like condensed, and then the other one where you can, again, build out the experience a little bit more. That way, not only are you addressing the fact that, sure, the resume might be a little bit longer, but also providing that short condensed version. I've had people do that and say, this is my government one, but this is the one that I want to focus on, or vice versa. And I don't think there's any issue with that. So again, if it is an issue of condensing because you've had your hands in so many things, I would just say go ahead and make 2 resumes, and for your applications, attach both of them. Sorry, I wish I had a better.
That's if you're applying by email.
Pardon?
But if you're applying through ATS, do you recommend? That's if you're applying by email. But if you're applying through ATS, do you recommend uploading both resumes as well?
Yeah, I've seen both resumes again, because you can upload a cover letter a lot of the times and another resume. But I would just very clearly state on the condensed one that this is the condensed, like a condensed resume. And a lot of times ATSs allow you to write, there's a little blurb that says, do you want us to know anything else about you? I would use that time and that little section to say, hi, very excited to apply to this role. I just wanted to give a high level overview. I've attached both of my resumes. One is a condensed one and one is one that I've built out with a bit more detail to review at your leisure. I would think that that would be fine.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Next one, how to organize work history if not every job I've had is relevant on the job description. Good question. Some advice says reverse chronological will fills up the resume. Some say organize by skill set, which is left to me. Yeah, that's a hard one because I have tons of friends and I have people that I work with as well that have kind of like an unorthodox background. They've started in product management, then they went to engineering. My boss is in people now. So I would say, depending on how much experience you have, use your judgment on how much you want to add. If you don't have any more than, I'd say, 5 to 6 years of experience, everything probably is relevant. Maybe if you've had like a service job, like working at a restaurant, or more of a blue collar job, maybe I would avoid putting that on a resume. But if it needs to explain a time gap as well, I would feel free to put that on there. I'd say the one thing that matters to recruiters the most and hiring managers are transferable skills. So just because the job is not the exact job that they're looking for, try and find a way to draw a transferable skill into that job description. And that way you can put even the non-relevant ones, but somewhat make them relevant. So again, I think it goes back to how many years of experience you have and the level of seniority you're looking to join a company at. But again, I would say unless it's like a very, very blue collar job, I wouldn't worry about having something that you would deem not relevant on your resume.
So in that case, like the last job I had in the Army, I was a teacher.
Okay.
But I'm applying for cybersecurity roles. So do I just shrink that thing down as small as possible? That final role where I'm not doing my cybersecurity role, I'm teaching something completely different.
Yeah.
So do I just minimize that so I can get to the really good stuff, or because I can't just leave it out? No,
100%, and it made you who you are, and it's made your resume. You know what I mean? So I would say condense it depending on how long it is. But do you have cybersecurity, like as any cybersecurity background or work experience as well, or you're wanting to move into that field?
Yeah, my entire adult life. I mean. Yeah.
So you're saying before you joined cybersecurity, you were a teacher?
No, I'm saying 20 years in the Army, all of it in IT. But my final year in the Army, they made me a teacher in the Army.
100%, you're right. Definitely condense the teaching part, but still keep it there because it is relevant. And honestly, I think that is a plus. A lot of people cannot teach, and I think that whether you're in cybersecurity or any role, being able to lead and teach and conduct training is super important. So I would definitely keep it in, but yeah, condense it obviously as much as you think makes sense.
Yeah, because right now the way my resumes are written, the really juicy
Yeah,
stuff.
it's a
is at
great
the bottom
highlight,
of the
I would
page.
say.
So
No, I would say it's a great highlight for a teaching experience, really. You can teach and mentor people. And I think most of the industry these days look some mentorship capability as well, that people should be able to scale other people. Hey, sorry, Eleni. That was,
Yeah, thank you, Mustafa.
I
Please
did not want to
let Eleni take
interrupt
those
you.
questions, please. Thank you so much.
sorry, Travis, did you get to wrap up that thought?
I think so. We can talk
Awesome.
offline too.
Feel free to jump back in. Should we use a doc as a resume maker? See the main worker, sorry. So the one thing I would say for a resume, try and always have it as a PDF. It just makes it the easiest for recruiters to open up. And a lot of the times too, if you do upload a Word document, depending on what ATS they use, sometimes it will distort it as well. I've had candidates that we've ended up actually hiring at my company, and the resume was terrible, but I saw the potential in it, and I just knew maybe there was a formatting issue. So as far as formatting goes, I would always say do it in a PDF. It uploads the easiest, and then it's the easiest to kind of get out of an ATS as well. Does age bias on the candidate selection if the candidate is couching for a lower role? Oh, so you're essentially asking if someone would not get a role because they're too senior for it based on age. Is that right?
Yeah. And does age play a bias, right? You know, some people for a specific role, when I look at the requirements, they are asking, okay, 5 to 7 years of experience. And I just kind of feel that, okay, I'm very much overqualified in the terms of the experience bandwidth. So does it reflect like, okay, am I cut out because they see that I'm overqualified or have a more than expected experience? And as well as does age play a role in terms of, like, you know, when you are saying like you are coming with 23 years of experience and you are targeting for a role, like let's say where they have an expectation for someone to have 5 to 10 years of experience and you are bringing about 23 years of experience, it is kind of an unsaid that, okay, this particular person has crossed his 40s or likewise. So
yeah, I would definitely say as far as age goes, Mustafa, again, there unfortunately are just going to be companies that do have age bias. A lot of the times, if somebody puts on their resume has 35 years of experience and they apply to an entry-level job, that's normally when the question comes in. For me, if I see somebody really senior applying to an entry-level job, number one, the first thing I'm thinking is, I'm assuming they really need a job. Number two, they're way too overqualified. Number three, this job probably will not be fulfilling for them long enough for them to really benefit from it. But that's a job at about 1 to 3 years of experience. There are companies that, again, post 5 to 7 years. And we've hired people with, again, 20, 30, 40 years of experience. Once you get to anything kind of around that 7-year mark, I would say that would be leaning into like being a subject matter expert in that space. So I would say don't be worried about your age. I would refrain, however, if you do have a resume, anything pre-2000, I would get rid of. I've seen resumes that, again, have 1994 graduation dates and things like that. It's better to get ahead and just alleviate the bias that probably will come with that than to act like it might not happen. So again, if you have anything the year 2000 and before, I would take it off the resume. And then again, wanting to make sure that the information is as relevant as possible.
Thank you. That answers my question, Eleni.
I just got to another one of your questions. Nowadays, the talent acquisition members upfront ask for the salary expectations and number before proceeding to the next stage. So how do we handle the question at the time mentioned in the salary range upfront and ask if we are comfortable in that range? So when I do pre-screen calls, which is the first call with all of my candidates, I go through my whole list, and then the second last question I ask is salary expectations. Now, at my company, we do something called transparent hiring. And essentially what that is I'm going to use a round number, for example, $100,000 we've had budgeted. If I interview somebody and they say they want 60,000, I will still ethically tell them we are going to pay them $100,000, whether they're overqualified, underqualified, wherever the case is. Not many companies are like that. So that's why it is so important to, again, know your worth and know what you need to cover your bottom line. I know some people are, again, in that space where they're just desperate for jobs and they're going to take anything. And I pray no one on this call is in that space. But I would say do the market research, know how much money you want to ask for, go maybe 15% higher, just in case their range is really, really low. When I was interviewing, I would have, again, other recruiters say, oh, like, we have benefits and we have this and we have that, but if it doesn't cover the bottom line of what you need to, again, keep yourself, or again, if you have a family, partner, children, you need to make sure that you know what you want. And if it is too low, then I think you have to just be okay to walk away from that role. Because another thing you need to think about is it's great to get your foot in a door, but if you're accepting a role that is exorbitantly lower than what you need to cover your bills, how long is it going to take you to get a raise to hit that point? You know what I mean? And again, I would be lying if I said some people don't take a job just to find another job. I wouldn't say don't do that. I've done that 2 separate times in my career, where it was just at a point. I was 18 once, and the second time I was 23. And it was like, yeah, I got this job. I know I want a better job, and I kept interviewing, and sadly for those companies, yeah, I ended up leaving within the first 3 months, but I needed it to kind of cover my bottom line. So I would say don't be too proud to do that, but also if you don't have to, don't do it. Okay, next question. I have seen Fang doing 8 rounds of interviews nowadays. To be honest, nowadays 8 rounds is normal. So I will say we've done 8 rounds at my company. I'm currently in a 7th round with a candidate. The one thing I will say is it depends on the role. It depends on the criticality of the role to the company. Right now, we are looking to hire an accountant, and it's a three-round interview. When we hired our head of marketing, it was like 9 rounds, but a lot of the time it was the candidates asking to meet other people in the company because they knew they had key stakeholders. What I have created for my candidates is pretty much a job overview packet. So it breaks down every single round of interview and why it's going to be beneficial if they do get the job. Again, not many companies do that, but I would say if it is 8 rounds, I wouldn't be scared to ask if it's compensated. And I know that a lot of people are scared to, again, venture into that space because a lot of people do need jobs. But if it's anything more than 5, they should be compensating you, whether that's an Amazon gift card. That's what we give. Again, money's a little bit hard, but just to thank you for your time. Again, you're a human, you're very busy. Obviously, it's a very competitive job market, and I do want that to stay top of mind. But if somebody's taking you through 8 rounds of interviews and you're not at the reference part at least, then again, I would definitely try and decide if that's a company that you want to work for. Because for me, if you can, again, decide in 5 to 7 rounds if this person is going to be a good cultural addition and somebody that's competent in the role, you probably don't have good people at the company that are doing these interviews, because I don't think that you need that many steps to make a successful hire. Okay, next question. Oh, yes, I will share the presentation. Sorry, I was just going to say I'll share the presentation after the call. We can get the recording. Is that it for the questions? Does anyone have a good example of how to mention time off for family caring? So again, time off to spend with family I have never questioned anybody. Like I've had people that have taken a year and a half off, 18 months off. I was caring for my sick mother. My child was sick. I needed a mental health break. You know what I mean? I think we're all humans. And after going through COVID as well, I think hopefully it did make people a little bit more empathetic to the situations that some people are in. If you do, again, however, get kind of like a negative response, or you can feel that the recruiter or the hiring manager is not buying for whatever reason what you're saying, or they're kind of turned off by it. Again, I hate to say it, but like, let that be a sign that it's probably not the right company for you to end up at. My mom was a stay-at-home mother for 14 years. My dad is military. He still is 32 years in. And she had to end up taking, again, a huge work gap. And then she took some more time off, went back to work. And every single time she was at a company that understood she has a family and she was a mother, and that just is what had to happen. So yeah, I would just say be open, honest, and transparent. And if it's a company that has dignity, then I think that they would respect that. Amber?
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I just want to ask a question here that, is it possible that someone creates something online, like let's say a YouTube channel, or putting some few videos, like let's say, for example, I'm a project manager that, I'm trying to, let's say, put some slides, define how the project manager is, and then putting some more information. Would that in any way help in, or did you see that any example before that this could help someone to get advantage in getting a job, or that would be beneficial maybe in something else than getting a job?
Yeah, you know what? I don't hate the idea. I actually really like that, and I haven't seen it personally. I've been on LinkedIn. People have sent me video recordings of themselves introducing themselves. Hi, Eleni, my name's this, and I love that. But I have not seen a link to a YouTube channel. So yeah, if you are in a technical role, or that you are somebody that has that
Eleni, we lost your audio.
Yeah, we lost the audio. Yeah.
I don't know. I got muted there for a second. Sorry. But no, I think it's a great idea. I would just say make sure that it ties into the resume in like a professional way. Try and shorten the YouTube URL to maybe just your name and then YouTube channel, just to make it, again, look a little bit more professional and seamless. But what a better way to have, again, to have a resume than to be able to actually walk somebody through with a video and with audio. So yeah, I would say go ahead and add that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Next question, Ola.
Yeah, sorry. Hi. I just have like a small question regarding the gap. So I know that if somebody asked me about it, I can clarify it. But like if I am putting it on the resume or on LinkedIn, should I put any clarification? Because they will just see gap periods. They don't know what happened on those gap periods.
Yeah. How long is the gap?
Like a year or a year and a half, but it happened twice.
Did it happen twice back to back, or it happened like you got a job,
No.
then you took?
Not back to back.
Okay. So sorry, two separate gaps, about a year and a half. Both of them were a year and a half or a year?
Yeah.
Okay. And sorry, I don't want to get too personal, but you were just caring for children, partner? It was, or again, was it just kind of to taking a sabbatical to take some time off?
No, it was just having the first kid and the second kid.
Okay. Then again, it's sad, and again, it makes me laugh because it's sad that we're still in an environment where women have to justify their maternity leaves of having children. So if it was to have children on your resume, I would literally just put in like homemaker, or I would literally just write like taking care of my family, or don't write anything. And again, if it's the recruiter is good and your resume is good enough, a year and a half is not a gap that somebody couldn't put two and two together, that maybe you had a child. So again, if you do feel, because some people do feel a little bit nervous with that, I've had people that put in their resume an 18-month thing and literally just put in homemaker or caretaker just to get ahead of that. But again, it's not like you were out looking for a job and didn't get one. You were genuinely just taking care of your family. So yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned about that at all.
Okay, thank
Eleni,
you.
Eleni said it a couple times, and I want to piggyback on it, and that is that people reveal to you who they are and what they are. And so be very careful when you listen to people's words. And companies are going to tell you what their culture is in the interview process. People are going to tell you who they are. And so if someone thinks that 18 months is too much for maternity leave, I mean, that tells you the type of company that you're interacting with. If you've made a choice to not have an income for 18 months so you could care for your child, that is an amazing thing and a wonderful opportunity. And so if a company says, well, you should be back in the workforce, and I know because I've worked for all of these companies, I legit worked with a coworker, she had a baby, and I think like 3 weeks later, she was back in the office. And that's just, to me, it's ridiculous. And I'm a man who has no children. So, but I absolutely think that if people ask and they're blown away by it, that's on them.
Thank you.
So we're at 8 o'clock right now. I have a hard stop at 8:15, but I'm good to go a little bit longer. If anyone does have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. And yeah, we can tackle them for Jonathan or myself.
Yeah. Do you want to take maybe one or two of those resumes, Eleni, that again, let's take the consent of if people are there already or not, and then we can show.
Mahamoud, oh my gosh, I'm gonna El Gendi.
Yes.
Okay, are you okay if I hear your resume?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, sure,
and then
sure.
I have Shahryar.
8 years of experience.
Okay, perfect. Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen then.
Yeah.
Entire screen. Okay, so this was the original resume. Again, the only thing, unfortunately, I was able to do was do a little bit of reformatting. So this is the original one, and then I'm going to flip it to the one that I've kind of cleaned up a little bit. So again, they look very similar. Only difference is even just like the color up here, the .NET developer. I added a professional summary, separated these out a little bit, and I also took out. I believe it was, yeah, Saudi Arabia. I just changed it to, again, the name of the company, bolded this, put the title, put the date, technologies at the bottom, 2.5 pages, super clean. I put the academic achievements under the education. Originally, I believe that the education was above it, or no, it was below. It was below it. I put the education above, and then the academic achievements I changed from projects to achievements. So again, like I said at the beginning of the call to Ahmed and Jonathan, a lot of the resumes are really good. It's just the formatting. This object-oriented programming, I ended up melding that into the beginning. So just when you look at it, it just looks a little bit cleaner and easier to read. And it adds a little bit of personality instead of recruiters looking at it and guessing where they're supposed to kind of put that bullet point. So technical skills there, we had that. We didn't have anything over here. So just really, again, formatting. But again, the bulk of the actual resume is really good. And if I was a technical recruiter, I would definitely pick this one out of the crowd. But again, just the blue for the Gmail, the LinkedIn here, little small things that can be changed that really kind of change the look of a resume and the professionalism of it. So this next one, again, I always love to see people, again, use different fonts and colors. But right now, I think it's important to make sure that your resume is as clean and concise to read. Again, appreciate that this is kind of put over to this side, but this is the original education and certificates up here, and then skills. And I'm going to show you the one that I redid. So again, pretty different as far as the layout goes. I did the professional summary, the professional experience, and then at the bottom, I added in the additional skills and education. The reason is you really want people to know what you did first. They're going to find out where you went to school. Make sure that you're having those keywords on that first page versus kind of filling that up with achievements and things like that. Put that more close to the end of the resume because what you do want to highlight is, number one, your most recent job, and then again, that professional summary. So all the information is the same. It's just completely differently formatted. And it just is a lot easier to read and also fits more concisely on the pages. So I know people want to be fancy and add color and things like that, but I always think black and white is probably the best way to go. Push this over here. Here we go. Okay, so these are just a few that I wanted to talk through out loud of the things that I would change. Again, definitely, I would always say try and do just a black and white resume. I would do the name up here. I would do all the contact information under it centered. Quality assurance specialist, I would probably take off because it's the first line of the summary here, and I would title the summary. Key competencies, again, look okay. I'd probably make the font a little bit smaller. Now, this is the space where we kind of get in when a recruiter looks at this. These are not like lined up at the same bullet points as these. So again, all of the actual content are good. What recruiters want to see is how much time are you taking to actually put your best foot forward? Is everything attention to detail, and is it as clean as it can be? Remember, like I said, these resumes are your first impression to any company. So make sure that, again, you're taking that time to make sure they look clean. And going back to, that's why I always think PDFs are the best, because you know that they're not going to distort the format like the way that Word documents do. I would say for this resume, probably on the longer side. I would try and condense it as much as I can. Okay, there's a French version as well. Maybe just upload one resume, because recruiters, I know some lazy ones that might not scroll down could think that it is a full 7-page resume versus a bilingual resume. So I would just be careful there. Maybe just make 2 versions of it. But again, here, really looking at the formatting, bringing the years under the title, and yeah, just a little bit more cleaning up. So again, what I'm hoping is that everyone can kind of go back, look at the tools and the presentation that I'm going to share, reformat the resumes, and then feel free to send them to me, and I can review them, and we can talk about beefing the content up if it needs to be. So we have Ali's resume here. Looking through it, again, I'd prefer black and white, just as far as delivery goes. Maybe a little bit of more centering for here. Summary looks good, really good length. This, you see how skills and experience are not on the same line. This is what I mean when it can distort. A little bit of spacing in between the jobs. Just bullet points. Again, a lot of them are, I've said, I feel like a broken record, but a lot of them are really just reformatting the resumes. But a lot of the actual bulk is really good.
I'll jump in real quick. I've seen some beautiful resumes in my time. I do a lot of resume reviews, and I 100%, with Eleni is saying, you can have a pretty resume that just is going to get messed up in the formatting, or it's going to get chewed up in the ATS system. I'm a big fan of keep it simple, the KISS principle, because I love being able to see and understand what the person's, and I've seen, like I said, resumes that are works of art. They're these beautiful colors, everything, and it's hard to focus on what it is that at the meat of it is you as a candidate.
100%. No, I could not agree more. And again, at the end of the day, it's just like a car. It could be the nicest car in the world, but if it doesn't drive properly, you're not going to get very far. So yeah, I would say, like Jonathan said, keep it simple. And then last one that I had a chance to look at was Karen's. Some advice just on spacing. I think right now it's just a lot of words. I do understand, again, that it was coming from a more of like a freelance background. So the one thing that I did want to do is, again, I saw the 1990 to present. What I think we could do to really enhance this resume is to put a profile summary, and then maybe just say, a content editor with over 2 decades of experience in conceptualizing and creating compelling content for online print projects. I'm passionate about collaborating with clients and colleagues to develop, make it more of a story versus, again, that hard timeline. Like I said to Mustafa, unfortunately, there is a lot of bias as far as, again, anything 2000 and before. So I would probably try and refrain from that 1990, unless, again, you want to rock it and own it. I absolutely love that too, but just kind of making sure that we get ahead of any biases. But yeah, for me, it would really be spacing. And then obviously, this is more of an artistic role, I'll say. So I don't know if you can add any more bullet points in there, or if it really would be more beneficial, again, just to kind of go to the writing portfolio. But I'm assuming whoever is hiring for this role understands that there's different styles of resumes based on, again, the more creative side. So for me, again, I would just kind of restructure it to make it a little bit more easy to read, and probably add some more spacing to this as well. So again, really the key takeaways that I would love everyone to get from this is review the material, reformat your resumes, send them to Jonathan or myself or Ahmed. We're happy to review them. Again, the work only gets easier if you do it yourself. I've had so many people in my career redo my resume and look at it, and it's great, but you also want to make sure that it's your own, and you want to make sure that you're understanding kind of what you're putting out there. So again, we're happy to kind of be those guides for you and run you through any tips and tricks that we feel like would benefit you. But your resume is really your identity, so you want to make sure that that you own it and you feel comfortable with it as well. So we're at 8:10. I don't know if we have any more questions. I have 5 minutes left, and yeah, happy to jump in if we need any more.
Yeah, I think let's stop here. Eleni, thank you so much again for the wisdom and all the insights shared, and again, Jonathan as well. And again, we can follow up on the Sunday call if there's any follow-ups, or through email, through Slack, through LinkedIn. You know, we have tons of ways to reach us. We can maybe take a group selfie if everybody's okay to come on camera, just to keep this as a memory for everybody who enjoyed this. So thank you so much again for everybody who joined. If you want to come in camera for a few seconds here, we can take that group selfie, and then maybe I can stay, and Jonathan as well. I'll stop the recording actually right now first. Stop the recording. Stop the recording.